helping you with Acorn and RISCOS computing.
Here we go. First of all, just to highlight, because I think we managed to get organized slightly too late, despite Chris, who I can see there, Chris Hughes, prompting me a couple of times about the impact mailing list, which was on Yahoo Groups. We've now got a new mailing list courtesy of Vince Hudd. So if you go to the Repository website and look at the mailing lists there, you'll be able to find a new list which is for all of our software, not just Impact. So I don't think we've advertised it yet particularly, but I sent a message to the old Impact list probably just after it had been turned off. So we'll get on and publicize that shortly. So with a bit of luck, in a moment, you should be able to see. Oh yes, I can tell you can see because Hilary can see it too. This is a Raspberry Pi 3, which I'm demonstrating on today, just so you're aware. It's not a machine I use an awful lot. It usually just sits there waiting to convert lots of map data from time to time, which we've been doing over the last couple of months, and we're uploading that to our website at the moment. So there will be new RISC-OSM map data available shortly. So what I was going to do very quickly, let's go and find the mailing lists at Repository, and you'll see here among a number of other lists, the Sine Nomine discussion list. So do sign up if you're a user of any of those bits of software. I mean, to be honest, the Impact mailing list had very little traffic on it, and I didn't have a problem with that. We're quite happy to answer questions direct via our support email list, our support email address. And usually I try to keep up with what's going on the Composite Acorn Apps news group and the other news groups and the RISCOS Open Forum. But the last few months, I've really not managed to keep up with the RISCOS Open Forum very well. So if you really want to get in touch, the support email address is the best, but this email list is another option if you're wanting to get in touch with other users of the specific software. But we've no objection to anyone asking things in other places. Just don't expect me to see them straight away. So I thought we'd start off by having a little look at Imp Email, which is a piece of software we launched only a few years ago, and is very good for sending out bulk messages. And the reason I thought I'd start off with this is from a little conversation I had with Rick yesterday when we were testing the Zoom connection, because he pointed out he'd sent a bulk email in lieu of Christmas cards this year, and quite a few of them had bounced back. And it was probably, it might well have been to do with using BCC to copy a lot of people, which tends to trigger spam bin things. So Imp Email is mainly for mail merging messages and including data from a CSV file into your emails. So its icon is sitting down there. It's this little sort of imp character with a green top holding an envelope with an @ sign on it. So that's the best we could come up with for an icon. If anyone's really good at icon design and thinks they know what it ought to look like instead, I'd be very welcome to have another a better icon if you can come up with one. And what I'm going to do is just show you how you can start roughly from scratch to create a bulk email in ImpEmail. So I'm clicking here to open a new message window, and it comes up with my name for the from address. You can have other names, or you can type whatever from address in there that you want. You can configure it with various preset addresses. As you can see, I've set up 2 different names there. And then the next thing you probably want to do is to find a CSV file and drop it onto this little area here. Now, ooh, what's going on? Something funny going on here, because it looks like, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I think the VNC server has hung, or the, apologies. I'm just going to have to stop sharing for a moment because it's stopping me getting at the controls for the VNC. Yes, good.
Yep, all good.
Great. So we'll have another go. What I was about to explain was one of the problems with using the VNC server is that you won't see when I'm picking up files and dragging them anywhere, and that can be a bit of a nuisance. And what went wrong was when I started dragging this this CSV file over here, it all hung. So let's see whether it's any better. It's worked. Phew. Okay, so I dragged the CSV file and I dropped it in this area here where it says CSV with a big arrow. And what it does is then it opens a viewer on the file. It can be quite a big file and you might have lots of columns and so on. Now, if it doesn't, that means you can see whether it's worked all right. Has it identified the field boundaries all right? If it hasn't, you've got some settings and you can change whether it's tab or comma separated, or indeed another separator. And you can also tell it to ignore lines starting with a hash or a semicolon or whatever else you might need to ignore if there's comments in the file. But on the whole, it does a pretty good job of working out what type of file it is, because there's various flavors of CSV file. There's the ones that Microsoft Excel use, and then there's things that are more common on the Unix side, or EasyWriter has a slightly different style from Fireworks, for example. So anyway, what we've got here is a list of people's names and their email addresses and some other data. What we first of all need to do is assign names to these fields. And actually, you see, it did have a header header line in this file, which is why we've got titles up here, and we can just accept those as the names of each of the columns if we want to, or we could, if we prefer, we can change the name to forename or something like that, and then no, we can't. Haha, that's not how you do it. Never mind. I think I know what's wrong there. Then what you can then do is you can drag from the heading area and drop it into the editor to say that this is where you want to put the data. So I'm going to construct a nice friendly looking email address where you have the person's name and then the email address in the angled brackets like that. And we're going to take this over here and let's say, dear so-and-so, please come to a party on such and such a date. Okay. And what we can do when we've got a few of these fields in place, we can then click test. We can pick a record, so that one, and click test. And it'll then show you what it's going to produce for this message. And we can move through these different records and see it change like that. Right. Now, in good Blue Peter style, here's one I prepared earlier, which has a little bit more text in. And you'll see what happens. So again, we've got, we can go and test, and you'll see the full message. So we've got the person's name, the dwarf's name is appearing in more than one place. The party on that date is in the subject line, and it's in the body of the message as well. And as you can see, it will, if we move to a different one, it will justify the text in the paragraphs according to the length of what's going in there. So where we've got several different types of food there, and it flows down the rest of the page appropriately. That's providing you haven't typed carriage returns at the end of every line, of course. So once you're ready, you can then, if you want to, you can maybe just pick a few people and send emails to that selection of people, or you could send emails to all of them. Clears the test away again, and you can then alter it, and so on. I'll just demonstrate sending this selection, and it's going to put up some errors because I haven't actually got the SMTP server configured correctly, because I didn't want any of these messages going off. So it's told me it can't actually find the SMTP server, and I've now got 3 emails waiting in a queue because it couldn't send them straight away. And once I've sorted out the configuration, I could click on send and it would send them off. If you do send the messages, then it will show how many got sent, and you can save copies in a form that you can drag and drop into Messenger if you wanted to store them inside Messenger to have a record of where what you'd actually sent. Just to explain a little bit more about what it supports, down in the choices, it can send direct to an SMTP server, only unencrypted SMTP, I'm afraid, and no authentication either. So it's a bit limited. Probably only your home ISP would work if it's still not locked down like that. The option that probably most people use is to use a news-based transport option, and there it will ask you to start your email software like Messenger, so that imp email can detect things like Popstar and Hermes, which are supported. I haven't got that set up on this Raspberry Pi, but it works fine, and that's how I normally use it with, well, we used to use it with Popstar, and now we use it with Hermes, so it works fine with both of those. And you can change how you want to display the emails, which of course is, for text emails, is just how it displays to you on the screen. So it's not anything to do with how they will end up appearing to the user at the other end. While we're on the editor window, yeah, just to say, I showed you dragging and dropping these fields across from here. You can, if you want to, do it the opposite way round. So I'm going to just change this field and call it party date like that. And you'll then find that party date appears as one of the options here. Basically, this menu that you get in the CSV file view shows you all of the names of the fields that it has found in your email template. and then gives you an option of typing your own thing at the bottom there if you want something different. So I can change that to party date, click test, and you'll see it's still working. It's picked up the different name there. Similarly, if you're over the editor window, you can insert CSV field and pick any of the fields that it has picked up from the CSV window. So that would insert CSV field, email. Yeah, that as you see pops it into the message. That's probably, well, that's almost all that I need to say about it. The other thing to say is it does support attachments as well. So you can have a file attached. You can actually have files attached where the file name is set using a field from your CSV file. So if you've got a CSV file which includes a file name in it, as well as the columns, then the attachment can be based on the file name. So if you have a load of different files that you're wanting to send to different people and you've got all that data, that's possible. It's a bit of an unusual use case, but it does work. Then the other thing, of course, to say about imp email, the reason for the imp is because it supports the impulse protocol, which is something which was devised by, actually, I'm not sure who it was devised by, possibly Computer Concepts. Yes, it was. Devised by Computer Concepts for communicating between databases and publishing packages like Impression, Ovation Pro, and so on. And what this allows you to do is do mail merging from a database system, whether that's the ones that I know of that support Impulse are Impact, which of course we supply, and Powerbase. So both of those databases, there must have been some others as well, way back in the past. It can't just have been Impact and Powerbase that supported this. But on the receiving side, at the document end, the applications that support Impulse that I know of are Impression, Ovation Pro, and now imp email. So the motivation for writing this software was to, because Impact supported mail merge with Impression and Ovation Pro, which were great for printed material, I just thought, well, it would be nice to have something that could produce mail merge stuff for sending out by email, because so much communication happens by email instead of post these days. It just seemed an obvious gap. So first of all, imp email supported Impulse, and then I added the ability to use CSV. So that means if you've got stuff in a spreadsheet or a database, as long as you can get it out via CSV, you can use imp email to send bulk messages in this kind of way. So I think that's the main what I wanted to say about imp email. Perhaps it would be a good idea to have questions, if any arise at this point, about imp email before I move on to showing some other stuff. And if you can't think of questions straight away or can't find the unmute button, bung them in the chat and we can always pick them up later.
Cost and where to get it from would be the main two, I think.
Yes, well, everything where to get it from is our website, which of course is sinenomine.co.uk, which is a dreadful one for spelling, but that was just our stupidity in picking up an incomprehensible and unspellable domain name. And I think it's only £10 for imp email on its own. It's supplied with Impact. If you buy Impact, imp email comes as part of the package. So Impact, I think, is about 40 quid or 36 or something like that. But imp email is £10.
Yeah, Matthew, I've been using it for a couple of organisations, and it works pretty well. I was just wondering, will it accept CSV files that have quotes around all the values?
Yeah, and I perhaps should have opened this CSV file. Yeah, this CSV file, as you can see, has a mixture. So you've got some of the values have double quotes around and some of them don't. Yeah, it sort of works this all out reasonably well. If you find any examples where it doesn't, let us know, because this CSV import procedure that we developed for imp email is also used in Impact and in RISC OSM. So if we improve it, users of those pieces of software will get the benefits as well. So we'd be very happy to have examples of CSV files that don't seem to work right. That would be great.
Thank you.
Right. I'll move on, and we'll next stage in the little tour is going to be Impact, and I'm afraid it's going to be more of the same just to start with, because what I would just quickly want to show you is how Impact can create a brand new database from a CSV file. So we'll just take this same CSV file again, hoping you're not bored with it, and I've dropped it onto Impact's icon there, and as you can see in this window, it says create new database via import, and it has picked up the names of the fields from the header at the top of the file, and it's proposing that those are what we're going to call the values in the database. So here's where I'm misremembering things. I can change this to forename if I want it to be the forename field instead of the name field. I don't know any of the surnames apart from potentially Oakenshield. You can see that there are a whole load of other options as well, because we need to tell a database system usually needs to know what kind of data it's dealing with. So I'm going to choose text field for the name and the email, and for the food. And for the date, I would like to choose a date field. So we're going over here, and the date field is going to have a style like 7 Sep 2017, but I can type in a date format of my own there if I want to. So let's click that, and you'll see it has an error. Some of the values in the column cannot be interpreted using the chosen date format. Highlight rows in table or continue. And I've practiced this bit, so sorry, Hillary's just telling me why it's wrong. She's spotted what the problem is. But I practiced this earlier this afternoon, so I'm aware already. So it's highlighted the rows there are problems with, and that's all of them. And the reason there's a problem is that none of them have a year. Well, that was because the original message, the original file was very vague, but we can sort this out. I'm going to drag to select these rows, and here's 10th of April, the first few in the row, in the field. And if I alt-click, I can actually edit on the spot the value in that field. We're not editing the CSV file at all. We're just editing what we're about to import. So it's for little tweaks that you might need to make when you spot something. You've finally got the settings right, and then you see there's a stupid error. Well, you can get that fixed here. But it's more powerful than that, because as I've got several selected, when I press return to fix that value, it says, do you want to save this value in all 6 selected records? And you can say just in the one or in all of them, or you can say, hang on, I didn't want to do that at all, and get out. So I'm going to save it in all of them. Then we'll select the others and do a similar operation. And there we are. Now we should be ready to pick the date format like this, and it's not making any objections this time. So I think, oh yeah, and the other thing that's interesting is supposing we've just got some of them selected, you can have it so that the database will only contain the ones you've selected when you create it. So you don't have to import all of the data at once. There isn't any nifty way of filtering this, I'm afraid. It's just, you know, you have to do it by eye. But if you had, for example, 1 or 2 that you noticed that you really didn't want in, you can select them and then invert the selection in order to get the others. So that can be handy if you've just got 1 or 2 bits of duff data in the CSV file. Anyway, we'll bring them all in and import. And as you can see, it's got here a report saying how many have been imported. I said, by the way, that you couldn't filter what was being imported. If you have an existing database that you're importing into, then you might have filters set up on that database, and it would then be possible to exclude some of the records that way. So it's created for us a little card, and at this point I can actually just close that. We now have a new database, and this has been saved, and it appears on our database menu down here on the impacts icon bar. So now we want to do something with this database. I'll just flip through them, as you can see, like that. And if I open a table to show them all, it's looking very familiar. It's a very similar window to the one that you saw for the CSV import, and Impact also has the same feature where you can edit things direct from the table and alter multiple ones at once. So there's a lot of common features across these things, so help make it familiar to you. Same thing works in ImpEmail and in RISC-OSM when you're importing CSV. So I'm going to edit the card because I want to add some extra features. First thing I want to add is a new tool. There are various tools along the toolbar at the top of Impact, and it puts the sort of most common ones that you want up there by default on a new database. But I'm going to add a merge tool because I want to demonstrate mail merging again. And I think that's all I want to add. And on the card itself, I just want to make the card a bit longer. And I'm going to get rid of the scroll bars and so on because I don't really need them. It's quite a small card. And I'm going to add a couple of these things which are called action buttons. Oops, action scripts, action buttons. So there's a palette here, this field selection window, where you can drag in different types of field. And I'm going to call that one invite, and we're going to call this one invite all. That's just the text that appears on the button. Actually, the action script itself can have a different name to where the program is stored. And then we'll save the changes. And yes, we do want to redefine the card. There we are. So what we've now got is a merge tool. Now, the merge tool is how you access this impulse-driven feature. So I'm going to create a new document. Each database can have an unlimited number of different documents that you might want to use for mail merging, and it could be from ImpEmail, it could be an Impression or Ovation Pro that would be what you're supporting. And I'm going to call this document invitation, and it's now opened it up here. And because I'm feeling lazy, I'm just going to copy quite a lot of this across. And you'll see, oops, I didn't want to do that, did I? hang on. Right, Control U in that one, and then move across here. Right. Etc. So now this won't work if I just leave it like that, because the way Impact interacts with ImpEmail is slightly different from the way you do it with CSV files, because it's more powerful. So if we're wanting to include a field from an Impact database, there's a command that looks like this: merge impact.bilbo fetch forename, and then we'll put our angled brackets and we'll grab the email address like this, like that. Hilary has just pointed out to me the even easier option, which I'm just going to demonstrate. If you've got this editing tool open here, you can in fact drag the fields from the card, which is much more pleasant. So yeah, that's even better. Oops, party on, and then we'll drag this in here. And then we need to replace all of these CSV things with the equivalent from the from there. I discovered the hard way that if you leave a CSV merge command in and then try and test it with Impact, you have a horrible crash. So I've made a note of that problem, and I hope it'll be fixed soon. So that's done all of them. And if we now move back to the thing over here, you see we can test in the same way, and we can move through these different records and test and see what they look like. And we can then send them all off. Well, we can send off a single one by clicking email. So again, it can't resolve the server, and so we've now got 4 emails in the queue. Or we can send multiple messages off like this. At this point, I've just remembered I was going to show you briefly what it looks like in the queue. So here is an example. What you'll notice about this is just the raw text behind the scenes. What you'll notice, which I was pleased with, is that we have, even in the header of the email, we have support for non-ASCII characters. So it's doing all the encoding properly to allow you to put accented characters and other fancy things into the headers of messages. I think when we first launched ImpEmail with all of this stuff, Messenger was not actually doing that properly at the time, but it has been improved since. So we've put a lot of effort in to make sure that it's all totally accurately coded email format. Right. Now, there is one little thing here, of course, that's a bit different from how we tested it before, because it's saying party on 10th of April 2021 in both of these places. Now, the original CSV file, we didn't specify the year. Probably a good thing, because I wanted it to be a demo that I didn't have to update every time the year changed, but there we go. So I'm just going to show you how we can actually do more fancy things with Impact than you can with a CSV file. So as well as having just dragging a field in, you can have a calculation field. And what I'm just going to do is put in the codes ZDY, ZMO, I think it is, something like that. And if we drop that into here, sorry, not drop that, drop this one into there, you'll see it's now put in a much more complicated merge command. And if we test that, you'll see it says 10th of April without the years. Now, okay, I managed to type all of that because I tested it out early this afternoon and worked out what I needed to type. But I'm cheating really because I couldn't remember what all the format was for that command this afternoon. So I resorted to the Impact Action Scripts and Calculations manual. And you'll find here, we've got a nice strong help manual for all of the clever stuff behind the scenes in Impact. And we've got the date functions. The format is just down there, and it tells you it will return the date D, which is here's the field name. It happens to be called date, and in a particular format. And you've got a link to the format codes from where you can construct the date format there that you want. So that is all very helpful stuff. That and that is all part of the HTML manual. There's a big HTML-based manual which we also supply as a PDF in case you prefer that or want, in fact, to print it out. And you can see there's a lot of different stuff in there, which is all usually kept pretty much up to date every time we have a new release of the software. There are some beeps coming from the computer next to me because Organizer is telling me that this week we need to put out the black dustbin. So sorry, I'll just stop that. Stop that beeping. Black dustbin tonight. Right. Okay. Let me just. It's fairly well illustrated as well. So you can see here we've got lots of stuff on merge commands and how to attach attachments into imp email and from Impact and so on. So it's pretty comprehensive. I am aware that it's perhaps not good enough on the tutorial side for new people starting. So that's something we're going to try and work on. But the good thing is with Impact, like with all of our software, you can download what's essentially the full version from our website and try it out. And various features will be disabled until you pay up. But you get the whole software. It will do most of what pretty much all of what it's meant to do. But in some slightly limited way, and you get the whole manual and everything. So you can see whether we're providing something which you're going to be able to get to grips with or not. So that's the way we try and operate, rather than, so you've got full information about what you're letting yourself in for. Now, there's actually an easier way of doing this than I let on, because in fact, with a calculation field, you can just type the field name for a date field and choose it as a date output, and you then get an option for a format. And from there, I could have picked 7th of September, you see, like that. At which point I can then easily see that's the century and the year, get rid of it, and throw it in here. Yeah, so that's like even easier. It doesn't need that deformat function because it can be done through the merge command itself. So I'll just test that again, and it didn't work. Oh, I wonder what I did wrong there. Oh, hang on. Yeah, there's something definitely wrong there. Double quotes. possibly missing. No, I don't know what I did. Let's just test that again. Oh, I must have got the, I don't know what I've done wrong there. Right, time to move hastily on. Perhaps it's, perhaps, I think it perhaps needs some, does it need some, no. Okay, I think perhaps I better not solve this now. One more attempt. I think it's probably because it needs the quotes around this to make sure it knows where the, no, okay, right, something else to fix. Oh, it's good demonstrating software. It helps you solve these problems. Right, okay. And the other thing briefly to do with impact, I think, while we're here, where's it gone? We're going to open the addresses database, which is one that a demo which comes with impact, and we're going to create a new we're going to open the video list example. And this is just to show you that not only can you put in individual fields into emails, but you can also put in tables of data. There was a command in there that's called table. And this is giving a list, giving Mr. Bill Smith a list of the videos that he's currently got on loan from the video store. You can tell the age of the demo database because it's from the days when there were video hire stores, taking us back to old technology. And again, this is quite a nice feature because imp email will take that data and it will tabulate it using spaces to create a fixed width representation of that data in an email. But it will also, if you've got the option set in choices, it says if merged content includes tables, generate HTML as well as plain text. So I think if we tried clicking email here to send it, again, it won't get sent, but we can look inside at the queue. And here you will find that we've got a MIME boundary multipart alternative, and here's the HTML version with the table. So that will then go off to a user who's probably got software capable of rendering that, and it will look nice. And similarly, just to have a quick view of what it looks like in Ovation Pro. We're going to bung in a table here, and we're taking it from the videos database with title order filtered by whether it's been hired to this user and the title and the data, what we're wanting to put in. Drag that into Ovation Pro. Ovation Pro is a bit kind of more friendly than imp email in terms of how it shows these things. You just have this thing in square brackets that says merge one for the first merge command. So you say, dear, well, this is where we need the name field. So we're going back to the addresses. You'll see we've got two different linked databases here. We've got addresses and videos. And we put in something here saying you have these videos on loan. Don't bother returning them because our business is obsolete. And then we can test that. And then of course, you find that Innovation Pro, you need to set your tabs, which you can do over here. And so I'm going to set a tab somewhere there, I think. Test, and now it's nicely lined up. So yeah, that's basically how it works in Innovation Pro. And you can go and, if you really want to, you can go and edit these commands behind the scenes and go into it direct. And there's all sorts of really clever things you can do in Innovation Pro, which I don't know how to do. But anyone who's a real expert in Innovation Pro can meddle away like that with their heart to the heart's content to do fantastic stuff. So I think that's all I was going to demonstrate with Impact. Any questions at that point?
Matthew, I've got one question. A while back, I was asking if you can add into Email a reply to field.
Oh,
so you can have a different to and a different reply to. So you could say from membership and reply to a personal address. I find that will be quite useful sometimes.
yes, thank you for reminding me, Chris. It is on my to-do list. My to-do list is long and has not been shrinking much over the last few months, because I'm afraid that it's so exhausting sitting in front of a computer working from home during the day that by the evening I tend not to feel like doing much more programming.
Well, understandable.
But it's definitely top of the features list for imp email. In fact, believe it or not, the imp email data format that it's stored in does have provision for any kind of header field that you want. It's just that the user interface doesn't have the ability to create them. So what I'm intending to do is put in something so you can add extra header fields, and it'll have a little menu probably so you can choose from the most common ones, but you'll be able to type in whatever header field you actually want if it's not on the menu, and then that will deal with your need and also lots of other possibilities as well. But I have to say, Chris, I was really chuffed the first time that I spotted that I'd received an email that had been generated by imp email, and that was one of your Wakefield Show communications. And I thought, aha, people are actually using this software. I've now actually had a message sent by my software, which was rather nice. So,
Okay, thank you very much for that update.
Matthew, can you hear me?
yes, I can. Yes.
All right. I've got a very old database, Key Plus, from Anglia Television. It's dated 1992. It just about works on the Pi with RISC-OS 5, but I want something better. What I do is I take the musicians like trumpet, clarinet, sax, and so on, and then within that group, I put their surnames. Then I put their forenames, so I can sort by those things. So when I look at when I try and print it out, I've got all the trumpeters done by surname and forename, and then next come the clarinets. Will Impact do that?
Possibly, yes. Yeah,
I call it multiple sorting. I don't know if it's got a proper name.
Oh, yeah, it can definitely sort like that. Let me find a good example. Right, okay, this is an example of a database which someone created for themselves and sent to me as an example. It's very blue, as you can see. And if you open a table, you can see that they've got 900 records in it, thereabouts. I've not looked at this one for a long time. But this database here has a single index called artist. If I put that in place, then you'll see it's sorting by artists there. But we can edit the database. Actually, although the index is called artist, it's sorting, but first by the artist and then by the title, and then we could maybe sort by another field if we want to. So that should allow you to put them into the order that you're wanting.
Right.
You can have a number of different indexes. They're called indexes. In reality, it's more of a kind of sorting order rather than a quick lookup or anything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could do that. If you were then wanting to maybe output it in a nice format, in a concert program or something, then that might be a little bit trickier. I'm thinking about the way you might say trumpet and then list of people's names and then cornet or whatever. You know, that might be a little bit trickier to have a section heading and then the names, but it would be very easy to list them in the right order, and it certainly has that capability. Best thing to do is to, as I say, download the demo version, have a little explore and see whether it looks like you can do what you want with it. And do get in touch via our support address if you want to ask particular questions about what's possible.
So you can then export that as a table and print it, and it takes out all the spaces you don't want, does it? So you can fit it on a page. Otherwise, sometimes you get columns that go on for miles.
That's true. Right.
Sideways, I mean across the page, not down.
Yes. So printing tables, I mean, Impact, it's for the best results for printing stuff. Impact really depends upon Impression or Ovation Pro for good output. So if you've got those, that's best. But it can print or indeed export a draw file from this table view. So this table view is something you can open. I'm afraid I've gone and opened it showing absolutely all of the fields, which is not likely what you'd be wanting to do. But just for the purposes of demonstration, we can export a draw file like this, and let's just let's just open it into draw. You'll see it looks something very similar, and you could then put it into anything else, or if you, I don't know whether we got any printers set up. Yes, we do. Great. If we go for print, what it does is actually it can print direct. You've got a number of different options here: portrait, landscape, etc. But if you click preview, what it does is it loads it into DrawPrint, which is the free software that we offer for printing draw files. And that will allow you to control exactly how it's going to be printed out. I'm not going to print this one. It's under 144 pages, but that's because it's too wide and just generally horrendous. But yeah, so the table printing from Impact, if you just want to print a table natively rather than via Impression or Ovation Pro, it will shove the stuff off into DrawPrint, where you can fully control the scale that it's done at. I mean, for example, we can say that we want to scale to fill page width, and we only want 2 pages across, and then it's going to scale it down and be totally unreadable. So very capable of doing what you want in terms of printing stuff, I should think. And as it's got the draw file export option as well, you know, you can then alter it about and change the style a bit if you want in some other piece of software.
Can you export it as a plain text file in a tabular form?
Oh yeah, so there is an export tool which exports in CSV format, and there are various other things as well. So you can separate by spaces, comma, tabs, spaces, and I think yes, pad data with spaces to fixed width, for example. So that would allow you to export it with it appearing in columns.
Yeah.
So this is going to look dreadful, I'm sure, but oh, hang on, I've only included one record anyway. That didn't help. Multiple records. Yeah, so there's a number of different different options there for exporting in plain text. I mean, actually, it looks a very confusing, right? Yeah, of course, this is so wide that it's looking dreadful.
Yeah, go on forever.
But you get the idea.
Yeah.
The export menu looks a very confusing thing because it's got so many different options. But if you have particular settings that you're wanting to use quite often, you can save it as a quick menu here. So we've got options here for exporting CSV in the form that Excel likes it, exporting in the form that EasyWriter likes, taking plain text, or tab separated for use with the label software Labella, and tab separated in a way which is really good for loading into MySQL, which is a Unix-based database. So those things have been set up, but you can define your own formats and save them as well up there. Yeah, it's fairly good at exporting, really, I think.
Thanks.
Matthew, I was just going to say, when you were showing the tables, one of the things I found out from you last 2 years ago now, 2 years ago show, was the fact you can actually hide, say, a certain column like records. You don't want that to appear in your draw file or draw export. You can actually hide columns from your printout or report or whatever.
That's right. Yeah,
Not everybody seems to know that one.
Yeah, the field maps, of course, control which fields appear in the tables. And if I'd gone and chosen one of these, we're going to have fewer fields there. But if you've got a one-off need and you think, well, actually, I'm wanting the title to appear first, we can drag that across. I'm having trouble here because I can't see the dragging properly via VNC, but you can see I've now moved the title across here, and perhaps I didn't actually want the also vinyl, so I'm going to hide that one, and I'm going to hide the collection field. I'm going to change the width of this one a bit, and then I'll export the draw file like that. So you can make quite a lot of changes to the display before you export, which is quite nice. Obviously, if you're doing it a lot in a particular format, it's best to set up a field map and all that kind of thing so you can quickly do it. And the thing I meant to show you, I've gone and completely forgotten part of the demo, but I think I won't go into detail now. I added these action buttons onto this dwarf database. And what I was going to show you with those is that that Impact has an action script language, which would allow me quite quickly to create a button which invites this particular dwarf via imp email to the party, or a button which can go through all of the records and invite all of them. Similarly, you can have buttons that open a table with a particular format of fields if you're needing to do that, filtered according to today's date. Maybe you want to list all of the members of your club whose membership recently expired. You can easily create a button to do that. So there's a lot of nice facilities in there. I wouldn't say that Impact is the most powerful database available for Riscos. That's undoubtedly data power, but it's got quite a lot of nice features. So it's worth considering. And unlike data power, you can download a demo which will do everything and with the full manual, and you can find out what it does before you part with any cash.
Excuse me, I'm using Data Power at the moment to create a massive database. So far, it's up to 7,000 records that are being transcribed into Excel by a team of volunteers, and I'm combining the CSV output to create the database. And I'm concerned that some of the volunteers are going to duplicate their efforts.
Oh,
And I did notice on only not masses, but just the odd one or two. And I did notice when you were creating the impact database, there was something about ignoring duplicates. Will impact do that?
right. It probably won't do what you need because what you will find when you've got volunteers inputting data is that the duplicates are easy for humans to spot, but hard for the computer to spot. Yeah. What impact can do, I think the duplicates, I'm trying to remember how it works now. I think that it will look for a particular key field, and if it gets more than one record with exactly the same data in that key field, that's the extent of its duplicate checking. Okay. So it's probably not going to do
that
what
could
you're
work
wanting.
With a negative number. So the negative number should be fairly accurate. So, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
fine. Yeah.
So, yeah, and I wouldn't recommend impact for really massive databases because there are various inefficiencies in it, which mean that if you're getting into the thousands, it's not going to work desperately well. It's never been used on an industrial scale. So, yeah, steer clear of it for really big things.
Okay, thanks for the warning.
Domestic scale database, I think, is probably, unless you're one of these people who has thousands of CDs or whatever, like this this example seems. Well, it could get a bit much. Yeah. Right. If we've had enough on impact, I'll move on to risk OSM and WROCC and so on. Is that does that sound agreeable? I've no idea when people need to go home, what time you're all heading off.
Well, they're already home.
Already home.
Yeah, last train is not relevant.
Yes. So all of these bits of software, actually, we have been working on them from time to time in the last few months. So imp email has definitely had a bug fix, which is nearly released. I'm just wondering whether I can find the, let me just see. Yeah, so imp email had a little fix recently, and I've clearly got to fix one or two more things as I spotted while preparing for this talk. Impact, I've made a couple of little improvements in the last couple of weeks. WROCC and risk OSM are undergoing some quite major work, which is taking a long time to get right. So there will be new versions coming out. It's just the software factory is working rather slow at the moment, I'm afraid, for the reasons mentioned before. So we'll go into risk OSM. One of the big things that Hillary is changing in risk OSM at the moment is trying to improve the pins and tracks kind of stuff, because some of the menus in risk OSM are getting a bit big because it's just got so many features that you get this great big straggling menu. And so she's trying to do a bit of restructuring of the menus to try and make it a bit easier to cope with. And that's taking a long time because you have to make sure everything still works and that you haven't missed out bits. So there's bits of paper sprawling over here which have all sorts of stuff scribbled on them about all the different bits of menu and how it should all work. So we're in the middle of major changes like that. With WROCC, what we're doing is adding some more data sources. Now, I don't know how many of you were at the, I suppose if you find the raise your hand thing, we could find out how many of you saw the London show talk that we did. Could you put your hand up or say yes or no on the...
Aye, aye, sir.
Aye, right, okay. There's quite a lot of people waving and there's people putting their thumbs up things. You see, I don't know how to, I've gone and lost the bit for participants. So you'll probably, well, perhaps I should say, who didn't see it? Is there a fair number of people who didn't see that?
The thing just told me that 4 hands were raised, but it's disappeared. Oh yeah, it just says 4 at the moment.
Yeah, but I think there are a lot of people sort of waving at us as well.
Yeah.
So I should have said, who didn't see the London talk? Okay, well, there's at least 2. So, right, what do I need to do? Because some of this people will have seen before, I'm afraid, if they did see that. And I've completely forgotten how I was going to demonstrate it as well, but never mind. So we're going to delve into the city centre in Durham, and I'm going to find the debug version of WROCC. So this is working slightly differently from normal, and it'll pop up a funny window with loads of rubbish in a moment, but never mind. We've had the Street View feature for some time, where you can go and get pictures from Google Street View. And oh golly, this is it's interesting. We've gone and found an interior view there. I think I'm going to, let's just shift it up the street a bit. Whoops. This is one of the surprising things actually about Google Street View is it does have some pictures inside buildings, which is very strange. Oh, and I'm having trouble now getting it to move. I'm meant to be able to drag this. Oh dear, I can't remember which version of ROCC I'm on. Anyway, get back to the point. There's been a feature for doing Google Street View for a while in WROCC. WROCC is an add-on to ROCC, and here's the more normal sort of view of it. And we'll just turn around and try and find a bit of street. There we are. Oh, Nevildale Terrace. Golly, I've forgotten. I hadn't noticed where I was. Right. Yeah. So so you can then navigate along like this. Oh dear. Sorry, this debugging is really very intrusive. Now, there are other sources of street level imagery. So the one we're working on integrating at the moment is called Mapillary. Now, Mapillary was an independent service till the summer when it was bought up by Facebook. So I've no idea what's going to happen to it now, but it still seems to be working. And Mapillary was designed for people to upload images themselves. So if you ever see anyone walking around with a weird 360-degree camera strapped to their back, they might be taking pictures from Mapillary. But you can use ordinary cameras as well, like a phone. If you can get an app for your phone, which will take pictures, and it'll record the position of them, and then you can upload them into Mapillary. So I'm going to try and see whether we've got anything around here, and it's searching Mapillary, and here is a picture. Now, the interesting thing with Mapillary is that all of the all of the images are part of a sequence of shots, which you can navigate along. So it's a little bit different from Google Street View in that we actually have kind of more metadata. I expect Google have this, it's just they don't let us at it. So with Google, all we can do is say, I want a picture as near as possible to this point, and it then gives us a picture. With Mapillary, we can say, what are all the pictures you've got in this area, and how are they linked together, and so on. So here is the picture it has returned, but with this debugging information on behind the scenes, you can see that this yellow box here is a representation of the area which I have asked Mapillary for information from. And then the red lines are linking up all of the, each of these red lines is a sort of sequence of pictures taken by someone, and all of the points on those lines are photographs. So if I take one of these, lines like this and click on it, you'll see the, how do you edit them? Do you do it like that? Do you right click? Yeah, there we are. So I'm just going to zoom in like this. You'll see that it's got lots and lots of points here for all the pictures that were taken. Now, it's quite unlikely that the person has actually wiggled about like this, because for one thing, they're not, they'd be practically in the river. It's just inaccuracies of the GPS positioning. But you can see the level of detail there is. There's quite often quite frequent pictures. So if you saw the London demonstration, you'll have seen that there were these little arrows to move forwards and backwards along the sequence of pictures. And, oh, come on, that's very slow. This is, oh, there we are. But as you can see, we've hardly moved at all. The picture didn't change much because there's such frequent pictures. But I've now added these double arrow things. At the moment, the double arrow just goes 2 pictures at a time, which isn't really a brilliant operation. But what it's going to do is go a certain distance. So I don't know, it might go, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 meters, I'm not sure. Once I've got the distance calculation working, I'll experiment to find what seems to be the kind of optimum amount to move, so that you can jump through these sequences quicker. And I'm probably thinking of having a thing which shows you, you know, that you're on photo 23 out of 80, and you could then, you know, move up and down as well quicker if you're wanting to explore. But one of the interesting things with these pictures is that they are under a very open license, so they are free to reuse, rather like the OpenStreetMap data itself. So it can be quite handy. They're also very varying in quality. Sometimes they're taken at night and aren't really much use. Sometimes you'll find they're upside down, or they're the right way up for a bit, and then one of them is on its side, and then they carry on right way up. It's but it's a potentially another interesting source of imagery that you can use to explore. And the point about it is that I meant to point out, let's go back to where we can see more of the area. You'll see that not only are they routes along the main roads and everything, but there's quite a lot of paths where people have been going along footpaths and exploring. So that's I'd suspect that the coverage is better in Mapillary for footpaths, because people know that Google Street View doesn't give them that. So the Mapillary contributors are probably going and exploring areas that you can't see on Street View, just because it's more useful and more interesting. So that's just another data source there. The other main one we're working on, and I'll just zoom back out again further. Oh, I'm still drawing a line. The other main one we're working on is weather. We haven't yet worked out how to improve it, but there are two sources of weather data that we're including, Open Weather Map and Met Office. And so we can get the weather forecast into WROCC here. And at the moment, you can click through the days, and further into the future, of course, you don't get the such detailed information. If you want to, you can turn off the detailed information altogether and just tab through like that. By the way, we're just going up and down the window here. So if you want to see a whole bunch of weather forecasts in one big long list like this, you can do that. You can export it as a draw file. You can export the data as CSV. Hey, what, shall we make a database in Impact with all of the data for the next few days? Yeah, we can get the temperature, wind speed, gust speed in miles an hour, all that kind of stuff. So if we want to, we can start doing mad things like that. Yeah, and you can turn on and off the different things. If we're really keen on humidity, we can put the RH in as well. So it's going to be quite good, and it's not far off being finished. How much more work is there to do on that, Hilary? Hilary doesn't know how much more work there is to do on it, but it's looking pretty good to me. So we might get a chance. Oh yes, and by the way, you get a weather symbol on the map. I don't know whether you noticed it's appearing there, just where my big pointy hand is. What happens? Oh yes, further information from WROCC. That opens the weather window. Probably, depending on the interface to Met Office and Open Weather Map, I think if you zoom out a bit, we might be able to get multiple weather symbols to cover, the surrounding countryside. But of course, they're the big disadvantages. If you want to zoom out a long way in RISC-OSM, it takes a while to draw the map. So it's not going to rival your BBC weather forecast for the whole country anytime soon. But for the local area, it could be quite nice. I'm just thinking, is there anything else that we're doing at the moment? Don't think there is, but you may not some of the other, after we added am I back again? Can you hear me now?
Right
Yes,
now.
can hear you.
Yes, you're back again.
Good. Okay.
Says attempting to reconnect to VPN server, I think, or VNC server. Sorry.
It does seem to be, doesn't it? Yeah.
Thought for
Yeah,
a horrible
I lost-
moment it was my PC doing that.
Right. I wonder why. That's just. I'm just going to disconnect from the VNC server, and we'll try going again normally. It's something. Yeah. These Windows laptops, sometimes I find they just go and disconnect me from my Wi-Fi for some reason. Oh, apparently the Ubuntu one disconnected at the same time, so it's not Windows. That's very fair. Right, let's try and share the screen again. Off we go. Screen 2, share. Right, oops. Right, I think we should be back to normal. Is that okay? Yes, It is. Great. So yes, we've the ones that we started off with WROCC were pictures from Flickr and from Google Street View, but we about a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago now, can't remember, we added some things to do with road accidents and planning applications. So you can fetch planning applications for your area and get information. The pins and tracks window is quite a good way of seeing what we're seeing here. Wait a minute, where are we? So as you can see, it's got information here. 54 South Street works to listed building. And if we control click on it, it will load up in here, and it'll tell you that it was applied for on the 16th of December last year, and all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, then WROCC is a nice interface to look at what's going on in your neighborhood like that. And I'm just going to go somewhere totally different because I'm fed up with having all of this red stuff all over the map. And let's have a look at road accidents in the area. So you can see in this area, there's quite a lot of road accidents, strangely enough, on the roads. And the different colours, well, the numbers tell you how many vehicles or how many things were involved in the collision. And the deepness of the colour is how severe they were. So I suspect that this one is a fatal pedestrian accident. You can see, if you hover over it, by the way, you might be able to see in the bottom of the Risk OSM window, it's showing down there, pin 1, pedestrian brackets fatal. And then the colour indicates the red and pink and stuff are pedestrians, and the orangey ones are cyclists, yellow's motorbikes, blue is car, purple is goods vehicles. So it gives you a bit of an idea what's going on. And you can get more information about any of them if you're wanting to find out more. So this can be useful if you're interested in how dangerous your roads are and whether things could be improved. So it gives you lots of data. These are from the official Stats 19 reports, which police records keep. So basically any accident where there's been a police report will appear in this data going back 10 years or so. So there's a whole range of other data out there that's now available through APIs, basically web interfaces, which we can interface to and pull information in. And we've mainly been pulling in things that we're interested or know about ourselves, but there's other stuff out there which we could add. And if you have knowledge of stuff that you think would be good to add to WROCC, we'd be interested. We'd be interested to hear about it and see whether it's feasible. But progress is very slow at the moment, as I said, and we've got way more ideas for improving the software than we've got time for at the moment. I mean, you should see the. Perhaps I should bring up the amazing. I'll just this is being recorded, isn't it? Anyway, here's a long list, as you can see, of stuff that we might want to improve in Risk OSM mainly. I think there's several pages of ideas for Risk OSM. So there we go. I think I'd probably better stop talking soon, to be honest, because I'm getting a bit worn out. But still happy to take some questions and so on. If you feel you're shortchanged by me wrapping up at only 9:15, then you'll have to ask for your entrance fee back, I'm afraid.
Can I ask you one? I think it's one of the best applications for displaying the railway data because it does show the underbridges and overbridges properly, and you can see the tracks, which you can't on Google Maps very easily. But I was just wondering if there's a data set that gives you all the names of railway features, like junctions and summits and that sort of thing, apart from the stations.
Now, yeah, that's interesting. The OpenStreetMap data is primarily contributed by volunteers. There are some commercial parties who are using this data, and in fact, OpenStreetMap is getting increasing use in a lot of different ways. You know, for example, your delivery driver, he could well be using a special application for that company, which works out how to order the deliveries, and OpenStreetMap data is being used in that kind of thing because it's got such a lot of good knowledge about streets and so on. So sometimes the delivery companies are altering the OpenStreetMap data to correct faults when their driver has been sent down the wrong road. So there's all sorts of stuff going into it, but primarily volunteers still. And the railway data, I think there is definitely a subset of people who are quite fascinated by railways and also fascinated by maps and also quite good at computers. And so it can be really very good in places. I'm just going to zoom in here to see if we can, I mean, I've no idea how detailed this is because Hilary mapped quite a bit of this to start with, but the Tallaght narrow gauge railway here has, as you can see, quite all the different sidings put on down at Wharf Station, and then if we go up to the yard at Pendray, you can see the layout of the track and so on. Now, the information about all of the names of bridges and so on, that's, I guess there's two ways it could get into OpenStreetMap. Either people with energy would go and actually look at these bridges and note down the reference numbers and the names of them and type them in, but that does require kind of actually going and visiting all of them. Or there might be a data set that datasets that people have obtained from free sources, and there is a certain amount of open data out there, you know, from government and maybe from Network Rail, I don't know, where you've got massive CSV files and things which people are then able to load into OpenStreetMap and tie up with features in OpenStreetMap. So I don't know how well this is all covered. I'm just going to go to London, I think, because why don't we whoops, see if we can find London St Pancras Station. And zoom in. Oh, I should go in a bit more zoomy than that. Let's go in really close. Not that close. Perhaps 1 in 10,000 was about right. So there must be plenty of railway bridges around here once it's finished drawing the map. What I'm just going to do is use the little eye and hover over, now, where on earth is, okay. So you'll see here, we've got a viaduct, which I think is part of the link from King's Cross onto the, well, goodness knows, it might be the North London line, or yes, it's the North London line. And you'll see that this bridge has a name, Silo Curve here. And this one over here, there's quite a lot of information behind the scenes, which is not necessarily rendered on the map. Now, some of this you can make appear on the map by editing the style sheet or using the style editor. I don't know how much the style editor has developed and how yet you can't add anything extra, Hilary points out. The style editor is good for editing what is already visible and changing the colors and the thicknesses and stuff. But if there are things which aren't being shown, then you can't add extra information onto the map. However, if you go into the text editor behind the scenes and edit the styles there, then you would be able to bring out onto the map special features if they happen to be there. So I'm just going to change the map style like this, and we'll change it to the railways style, which is one we supply with it, which emphasizes things differently. And in the railways style, we actually color the lines differently if they are electrified. And so that's picking out a tag from the data in OpenStreetMap, which isn't normally visible in most renderings. But as you can see, it's picking it out electrified lines, and over here there's non-electrified cement depot siding, which is coming out in black. And I think it does a different color for different voltages possibly, but I can't remember what we put into that. It was just a kind of demonstration of what's possible, really. So you can see what information is in the database by using the info window and hovering over it. If there's something that you want to actually render on the map, let us know. We can always tweak that railway style sheet a bit more to add more stuff onto it if you don't fancy doing it yourself. If the data isn't in OpenStreetMap at all, if you can get it from somewhere else as a CSV file, then it would be possible to drop a CSV file and put points onto maps to highlight things. Or if you got really into OpenStreetMap, you'd be able to load it into OpenStreetMap and tag it up for the benefit of everyone.
Thank you.
Sorry, that was a long answer.
A lot of data there, but it's not necessarily.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily. I mean, this is the trouble. With all of OpenStreetMap, there are places which are mapped really, really well, and there are places which are not mapped very well. And there are various somewhat surprising or really specialist interests out there. So there are people who are really interested in recording which monarch is on the pillar boxes because they're really interested in that. And there are other people who are really interested in recording what type of pylon this pylon is. And I've no idea, but I'm just going to jump over to Durham again, because one of the amazing things we have in Durham, which is a really, really unusual feature of Durham, is that just down here in the green belt, where you get beautiful views of the cathedral from the distance and stuff like this, we have a, this is switched from the railway style to the normal style, I think, default. We have a field which is absolutely full of pylons, and they've not been mapped. This field round here, let's just see if we can get any photos. Oh, we've probably, yeah, one photograph found. Oh, that's no good, it's on the road. Anyway, this field round here is absolutely full of pylons because it's a training centre for the people who maintain transmission wires. And it's really weird. First time we walked down this way, we thought, what on earth is all this stuff? Oh, there's no power station around here. You know, and it turns out it's a transmission line maintenance training centre. And the reason it's there is because the electricity board owned the land, and it was a handy place to do it. And the reason they own the land is because they bought it in the Second World War with the plan of, just after the Second World War, with the plan of putting a great stonking coal-fired power station there, which was going to have towers, you know, taller than the cathedral. And fortunately, that caused a big fuss and got kicked out, and so we have a beautiful bit of countryside still, full of pylons.
And here was me thinking it might be top secret. Quickie question. Price again. Surprise, surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, Risk OSM is £20, I think, still. 18 if you're download option. So
my goodness, it must be the best value software in the world. It just, I think you should charge a lot more after we've all bought it, of course.
Well, I think the trouble is you have all bought it now. So and WROCC is £10, which right. Feels a bit of a rip-off by comparison. But at the moment, all of the money from WROCC is actually going to we pass that on to after a bit of a delay, because we sit on it for a while and don't get round to it straight immediately. But anyway, once a year or so, we pass the money on from that to the RISC-OS Open Bounty for the TCP/IP stack, because WROCC wouldn't have been possible without the TCP/IP stack work that has been done over the last couple of years. So we're contributing to the next stage of that in order to help that along. So,
yeah. And is there a recommended system? Because obviously it's graphics heavy. Is it more the heavyweight RISC-OS machines you recommend?
Yeah, it definitely works better on faster machines. Apparently, it really zips along on a Raspberry Pi 4. So if you can afford RISC-OSM, you can probably afford a Raspberry Pi 4.
I think so, yeah.
But Hilary does a lot of the development work on it on an Ionix, and she doesn't get totally bored waiting for it to render maps on the Ionix. We have one or two people who use it on a RISC PC, and I imagine they must get through a lot of cups of tea.
I would have thought.
It's not that bad. I have run it on my RISC PC. It is a bit yawn still, but it does get there.
Yeah.
It's quite fast on Virtual Acorn, some of my Virtual Acorn machines. And yes, it does. I've got a Raspberry Pi 4 here, and it zips along.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, there are two elements really. It's got to load stuff off disks. There's quite a lot of data to load in. So if you've got faster disks, that's a great help. And then the rendering, I mean, it's doing a lot of floating point maths, fair amount of floating point, and all of that draw file rendering stuff, which the operating system does for us. I mean, we just create a draw file and then the operating system puts it on the screen. That's pretty heavy as well. I mean, to be honest, when Hilary first got it working, we didn't know whether it was going to be usable. Had to put a fair amount of work into it before we knew that it was actually going to be worth doing. And it's pretty impressive what the draw file format and draw file render can do. I mean, the way to get around, I suppose the thing that encouraged us to attempt this in the first place is that on Hilary's smartphone, bought in about 2011 or 12, I think it was, we were able to install a piece of software called Osmand. This is an Android phone, and Osmand is OpenStreetMap for Android. I mean, there's various alternatives. There's not just Osmand, there's a few of them. And that was taking the vector data and rendering it on the fly. Like RISC-OSM, the data sat on the device itself, so you didn't have to have an internet connection, and it was able to render it. And of course, we knew the phone had an ARM processor, and yes, the screen was fairly small, but we knew it was going to be possible to render the maps, providing we got the data format right and optimized it as much as possible. It's not optimized as much as possible. There's still quite a lot of data in there that isn't being used. So it probably could be sped up a little bit further, but it's a very laborious process trying to work out what's being used and what isn't. And just testing all of that can take days and days. So we've got it to a stage where most people seem happy with it most of the time. If you want to have a better experience, reduce the size of your map area and it'll really render quite quickly, because obviously one of the things on a desktop machine like this, you're rendering a much bigger area than you would ever see on a phone application, because you've just got so much more screen estate.
Yeah.
So if you've got a giant screen like some people have, which I see at shows, and they're absolutely fantastic, you probably don't want to make your map window to cover the whole thing unless you're really, really wanting to get an overview of a wide expanse of country. And
yeah,
it'll just increase, if your map area is 4 times the area because your screen's so much bigger, it's going to take 4 times longer to render, and you might get a bit fed up.
Yeah, yeah. Is there actually an equivalent in the PC, Linux, whatever else world at all? Because if not, this is what they call a killer app, is it not? And should we not be selling it to local county councils, the police, railway companies?
Right. The professional people use geographical information systems, GIS software.
Right.
And there's various things out there. There's something called ArcGIS. There's a free thing which you can get for Linux called QGIS, which I have used a bit. And these things tend to be a bit more versatile. They can take data sources for the map rendering from OpenStreetMap or from Ordnance Survey or other proprietary sources, and they can combine them into all sorts of things. I mean, they're really, really clever bits of software, but they are also incredibly difficult to learn how to use if you're doing anything. Well, there's so many features. You have to look out the right tutorials to get to grips with them.
Yeah.
So I think the most professional organizations have this kind of software already and pay large sums of money to do it. And they would probably find they could do some basic things with RISC-OSM, but the more detailed stuff that they have to do, we wouldn't be able to compete with. So it's more a kind of domestic tool, I think, again, rather than professional, but it can do quite a lot. And
yeah. I mean, my argument would be, like you said, the usability and the price is absolutely peanuts. I mean, I have no idea what the commercial ones are. They're not going to be 20 quid, are they? Going to be 20 quid per second, more like, by the sound of it. So there's an argument saying you should have one of these as an easy to use system, and then you can ask the clever people the tricky questions, you know. So just have one line around, you know, here's a RISC-OSS system, just use it, and then say, right, I can't see enough detail on this, send it off to an expert.
Yeah. I wonder whether there would be any.
Well, I was thinking, just like when you were looking around Durham, my girlfriend's in Durham, you might want to have a look at places you might want to go, so you can see the scenery before you get there from your local information.
Yeah, that's true. I'm wondering whether there's any mileage in sort of having an SD card image that people could download and write to an SD card and plug into their Raspberry Pi, and it would boot up RISC-OSS and start RISC-OSM without them having to worry about anything else for the non-RISC-OSS user. That wouldn't be that might be quite an interesting idea. I mean, it's another bit of work to try and do, isn't it?
I mean, it's the catch, isn't it? You know, it's dead cheap. You set your software price cheap. If it's a Pi, that's dead cheap. So it's only getting a system, as you say, that boots in without the stuff you don't want, you know, and then making it, unfortunately, public proof might be the tricky bit. But, you know, you could then say, well, let's sell this information for every city in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, you can fit the British Isles data easily onto an SD card, so you know you could have the whole of the British Isles on.
Yeah.
It's just a labour really of getting it all set up to make it, you know. I mean, we don't get overwhelmed with support questions from users at the moment, but obviously if we had thousands of users, it would probably be unmanageable and we would need to be charging more just to be able to kind of give up the day job, which I don't think is ever going to happen, but there we go.
No, but the argument could be, just try it with your local county council and say, look, here's public information system, have a walk round town without walking round town. You know, try that, just on a suck it and see basis almost.
I think that they probably do a lot of Street View stuff already. You know, I don't think we would get very far with professional market. Really? I think what would be easier would be all the people who are interested in this kind of thing from an amateur point of view, who would want to, you know, say people who pay. I mean, one of the things I've used RISC-OSM for myself, a group of us in the centre of Durham formed what's called a neighbourhood planning forum. This is something that if you've got a parish council, then the parish council can do this. And you can create a neighbourhood plan, which is a planning document, which then gets consulted on and you have a referendum before it's adopted. And I produced quite a few maps and stuff for the neighbourhood plan in Durham using RISC-OSM. In the end, we ended up having to re-render them using ordnance. A lot of them we had to re-render using ordnance survey data because it was going to go into legal document. Right. But some of at the consultation stages, we were using a lot of OpenStreetMap-based maps. So I produced some using RISC-OSM. One of my colleagues on the group produced them using QGIS. The Linux software, and you know, I sent him KML files of things that needed to be put on his maps, and you know, I created documents in EasyWriter with maps dropped in as draw files, and dumped stuff into tables in the spreadsheets, and you know, you can do quite a lot with it in an amateur sort of way. So yeah, it's got. I mean, that's what some of the features in it were devised. You know, when I said to Hilary, I really want to do this, and so that was the next feature she added sometimes. But that's not the original impetus for the software. It was. It's just once we had it, I thought, oh, I'll use it for this. And how could I use it for that? And
I think it's quite amazing the amount of resources that you can pick up from that. Like you were saying. With the how safe is the road traffic accidents, you know, I'd like to think the police are using that along with the town planners to say, can we change this road, please? But the depressing thing about it is that I think that the accident statistics are mainly used in a very crude way by developers to try and demonstrate that the roads are safe, so that they won't have to pay for any off-site improvements. Because councils, if there's a big development, the council has the possibility of getting extra money out of the developer to pay for road improvements for access to the site. And so the developer puts in a big document called a transport statement or a transport assessment. And the main purpose of the transport statement is to say, there will be hardly any impact here. You know, no need to pay for any money here, you know, no need to pay for improvements. And there's this busy main road here. No, look, there's only been one pedestrian injured in the last 5 years. We don't need any improvements. It's clearly not dangerous. What they never actually, of course, admit is the reason there's only one pedestrian being injured there is there's only about 10 people ever walk along there because it's so horrible. So the rest of them don't appear. All the people who want to walk that way don't appear in the stats because they get the bus instead or the car. So, you know, these things are definitely used, but I think they're more misused than actually used, you know. We have the power to fight back now.
Exactly. This is, and a lot of this stuff is being gathered together by various sort of campaign groups and people who are interested in this kind of thing, and to try and make this data more public and more available to everyone, so that people can actually get more engaged and challenge some of this stuff. So yeah, there's lots of good things being done by all sorts of people in this area, lots of data.
One thing that's brilliant with it, I've got Martin Averson's organizer, and you can click on a postcode and up comes the risk-off map. And then you can start looking for the pictures of the area as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the integration with Organizer was, I think, the first thing that we got done after we launched. And yes, sorry, I've got a question in the chat. And Steve is asking, is there a way to import a CSV file with information in? And I'm just going to drag this CSV. Sorry, let's open the CSV file first. So this CSV file has in it postcodes and national grid references. And it's a list of blue plaques around the town I grew up. So we're just going to drop it in here. And it's gone and opened that pins and tracks window in an irritating manner. Doesn't do that anymore. Okay, sorry, I'm not quite on the latest version. So it's the window you're familiar with now for importing, and we just sorry, I've got Zoom things standing in the way of my. So it has worked out that this looks like a postcode field, and there's a grid reference over here. But if I get rid of the grid reference, altogether, I can show you that it can import on the basis of the postcode alone. We're going to put that into the pin name. I think that'll do. So I'll import them all, and it's just going to display them now on the map. So from that, I can then go to the pins and tracks window. Sorry, they will appear in a moment. And we'll go down here. And here are all of these things. I'm going to select this folder, the Beeston plaques, and now I'm going to do export. So we're going to export CSV, and we're going to export the name and the latitude and the longitude and the grid reference. You'll notice we can't export the postcode actually because we didn't store it in a field and it's just converted to latitude and longitude. We can't do the kind of reverse lookup like that properly. And I think location description as well. Now, this is an interesting one. Okay, so what Risk OSM is able to do, and I'll just drag and drop that and put this on to, oops, hang on. I need the icon bar visible. I'm going to drop it onto Impact now and pretend that we're going to import it into Impact. And you'll see what we've got here. We've now, having started with the postcode, we've now got the latitude and the longitude, and we've got a grid reference, and we've also got a description of where you are. Now, this bit is devised by Risk OSM, and it tries to work out if you're near a building, if you're on a street or near a street or at a particular building or that kind of thing. So this will actually show you Church Street, Beeston, Broxtowe, all of this kind of thing. So you can take latitude, longitude, or grid reference, or postcode, or a combination of those things, pull the information into Risk OSM, it will do its magic, and then you can export it again with even more things added into the mix if you want. So quite a lot of stuff going on there. The postcodes, by the way, are postcode centroids. That's what they're called. So each postcode area, the Royal Mail has the data about exactly which part of the country each postcode is, and it's got a border, you know, around each one. We haven't got the Royal Mail data, that's very expensive. But the Ordnance Survey takes the Royal Mail data and it works out a point in the centre of each area, and it releases on an open license the postcodes and latitudes and longitudes for the centroids. So that's what we're using. That's why we can't take a position on the map and turn it back into the postcode, because the postcode point that's nearest isn't necessarily the one that you're in, because if you've got two long streets that are parallel, well, you might be nearer the centroid of the other one. So it wouldn't really be reliable doing it in the reverse direction. So yeah, that's that. Sorry, I interrupted, Chris. I hope I'd answered your point, Chris, but I can't remember now. It's just Hilary prodded me because we got something in the chat.
I was just praising how useful it was. It wasn't a question.
Oh, okay, that's all right. Yeah, you can do that again anytime, Chris.
Matthew, you can link within Impact, you can actually have a action script to open up Risk OSM, I believe.
Yeah, so Risk OSM has Risk OSM can, let me just find an example. Right, if we export, this is the easiest way to show it. There's a thing called a location, a geo URL, I think is what it is. So if I drop that onto strong ed, oh, I think I've dropped it in the wrong place. This mouse is a bit dodgy, I think. Export location URL, center of map. Okay. If you see that, this is a URI, URL or something like that. It's not a format that you normally see. It says geo and then a colon, and it's got the latitude, the longitude, and it's got a scale option here to tell you what scale of map it is. Now, Risk OSM listens out for this kind of URL. So when anything kind of clicks on a link, RISCOS has a system for handling links. So if you go to NetSurf and you click on a link which is a mail to link, it will probably open in Messenger if you use Messenger, because NetSurf will pass it on via the operating system, and Messenger says, I know what to do with mail tos, I'll open a window. Well, Risk OSM says, I know what to do with geo, I'll put a map up. So if you have location data or postcode data in, we do a slight cheat with the postcode data. I think we accept a postcode in the geo URL, which isn't really what you're meant to do, but you know, it works. And so Impact can generate a URL and get Risk OSM to respond. So it's slightly more fiddly than doing it in Organizer, which just has it all built in. But that's how it works. The other thing that Organizer does, I believe, and one of the things I've not really made very explicit, is that one of the helping applications for Risk OSM is called Nomine, and you get it if you open a new map window. When you're typing things, you can say Retford, and it'll bring up the only town in the British Isles called Retford. That's in fact it gets to Retford pretty quickly once you start typing. Oh, hang on. Am I still here?
Yes, you're still here.
I think I may have some sort of network problem here. Oh, wait a minute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you, see you, and we have screen view.
Right. Okay.
What do you mean he's still there? You haven't been teleported to Retford, have you? It doesn't do that, surely.
No, that's experimental. I'm afraid it's not working very well. Yeah, I'm just going to reconnect to the VNC server. It seems to be throwing me out like anything today. Right. Oh, that's better. Okay. Full screen. Scale it and then share it. Off we go again. Sorry about this. Right. So supposing we go, you go to Retford. Well, you've got this gazetteer with all the place names, but if you want to say banks in Retford and press return, it will. Fortunately, not all of the banks in Retford are closed yet. But it will open this thing from Nomine, which is a bigger database from OpenStreetMap. And you can select all of these and show them on the map. And here we are. Here's Lloyd's, here's HSBC, that's Santander, which doesn't appear to have been put on the map on OpenStreetMap very clearly, but it must be there because Nomine is based on OpenStreetMap. Yeah, there it is, Santander. They just haven't got the building; they've just got a little picture. Sorry, where's my go back? Seems like the VNC program has taken over F8, which is annoying. So Nomine is a database based on OpenStreetMap data, and it's got all sorts of stuff in. So you can take an address and you can throw it at Nomine, and it'll have a good go at finding them. So if we go for, I don't know, 15 Lynn Close, Oxford, we can go and search Nomine, and it finds exactly one, and we're loading the map, and by magic, there it is. How do we go in? Zoom in, plus. As you can see, it's got number 15. Obviously, that depends on the house having actually been added to OpenStreetMap, so it won't work everywhere. So yeah, that's an online system, of course. It's not all stored on the data that you download from us. So Nomine goes off, the Nomine application goes off and talks to the API to pull that information back. And I think Organizer, if you've got an address in a country that doesn't have postcodes, and I think Organizer throws the whole address through to us, and we then attempt to display it on the map.
Yes, I had a problem once with Northern Ireland postcodes.
Yes. Northern Ireland, unfortunately, the Ordnance Survey of Great Britain does not cover Northern Ireland.
Isn't it? Oh, that's the reason, is it?
Yes. So we get our postcode data from the Ordnance Survey, but there is a separate Ordnance Survey of Northern Ireland and a separate Ordnance Survey of Ireland. And they even have a separate national grid over there as well. They always did, in fact, when it was all part of the UK, because they're slightly further over and tilted round slightly more. So it's there are parts of the world where I think you can, if you get a RISC OSM map up, you can choose between the Irish and the British national grid if you're close to the boundary of the two areas, and they are slightly twisted round from each other and different shapes. Yeah, so unfortunately, the Ordnance Survey of Northern Ireland is not so enlightened about making all its data open as the Ordnance Survey of Great Britain, and so we have no access to postcode data. I did inquire of the people who look after postcode data at the Ordnance Survey of Northern Ireland whether we could access it, but the license they offer would not have allowed us to redistribute the actual data to end users unless we'd paid, I something several £1,000s, and we didn't think that. I think the two people who'd inquired about postcode data in Northern Ireland being missing probably don't want to stump up that one for everyone else. Now, on the other hand, there is postcode data in OpenStreetMap because people have added that voluntarily to OpenStreetMap. We don't actually at the moment harvest that when we're converting the data, but we perhaps, I think I ought to try and assess how much postcode data for Northern Ireland is in OpenStreetMap already, because if we then pulled that out when we're doing the data conversion, we could improve the postcode information, the postcode index, by combining the the Ordnance Survey data with the OpenStreetMap data. So that's a possibility, but I've not investigated that yet to see whether it's viable.
I am not criticising your mapping. It's just that I just tried it once, and because my niece lives in Northern Ireland, you see.
Yeah. Well,
by the time you get it done, it'll all be one country.
Yes, but will they have postcodes? It's quite interesting. There's only really 3 countries that we've found that have postcodes as detailed as have really detailed postcodes. United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Canada are the only countries we've found which have postcodes which take you right down to the street level. Almost all the other countries that I know of where we've investigated, the code just takes you to the town or the village or something. There's just a number. The French, for example, they have a number. It starts with the département number, and then there's another 3 digits, and it takes you to whatever the settlement is, and that's as far as it gets.
I've heard for the Republic of Ireland, the postcode takes you to the actual address. So
okay.
Every house in a street will have a different postcode.
That's interesting. I didn't know about the Republic of Ireland then. Yeah, of course, the other thing is we don't have Channel Islands postcodes either because they're not part of Great Britain, and nor do we have the Isle of Man. So, yeah, we live in a very weirdly organised country. So that's why.
Yeah, they're
Australian
part of Great Britain.
postcodes are huge.
Yeah, they're part of Great Britain. They're not part of the UK.
Yeah. Yes. Well, the folk in the Channel Islands like to think of Britain as their colony, because of course they're the only remaining part of the Duchy of Normandy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a weird thing with Southern Ireland. I didn't know about the postcodes. I know when I went a few years ago, there weren't any postcodes for sat-nav. You had to put latitude and longitude into 73 decimal points just to find out where you were. But they'll have 3 streets with exactly the same name parallel to them. So if they're going to have postcodes, it will have to be for the house, for that version of the street, because that's how they do street names over there. They'll have multiple street names of the same name all next door to each other in the same town.
Oh, that's
only the Irish could think of that one, is what I would say myself.
That's not true. That's not true, because Durham is absolutely dreadful for street names. It is the worst place I've ever met, and I'm just going to take you to. Oh, we've still got all of those dratted red lines. I should be able to show you how to turn them off. Let's go into the pins and tracks thing.
It probably has lots of front streets. I know my girlfriend's in Sacriston. And
we've got
streets.
Loads of front streets for one thing. But the other thing is that delete the folder. Do I? Okay. Remove. Yes, it says remove. Yes, remove it. Yump. There we go. That's better. Right. So on Church Street, we have 1 to 7 Church Street are along here. At this end, we have Church Street Head, which starts at number 1. That's Church Street Villas, 1 to 3. Then we have 1 to 7. Then we have Church Street Head, which is numbered from 18. Where's number 1? There's Anchorage Terrace along here, which starts at 1 and goes up to 9, going the other direction. We've got Palmer's Close. And over here, what's the day? They're Church Street as well. Gosh, that's
good.
Good. I think there's about 5 different number 1s on this street.
But they're all on the same street, whereas the Irish ones are on 3 different streets with the same numbers of 1 to 20.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is an interesting approach. I know of an area in Edinburgh where they have some terraces which have a typical Scottish fashion. The ground floor is one house and the top floor is another house. And because the top floor is actually accessed from the opposite side of the house from the bottom floor, for one thing.
It's got a different address.
But it has the same address. So the terrace itself is called Kemp Terrace or something like that. And numbers 1 to 16 are the ground floor, and you access them from that side. And from the other side, you access numbers 17 to 32. But of course, so you walk down this path between 2 lots of terraces, and the terrace on your right is called one thing, and the terrace on the left is the other. But you've got different numbers, and then so you could walk all the way down one and find that actually the way to the house that you wanted was completely round the other side of it because it was numbers 1 to whatever. I mean, we did a fair amount in the first lockdown. We did a fair amount of mapping just to get out and get some exercise. So we added all of these houses around here onto OpenStreetMap. And Farnley Hay Road is brilliant because all of the houses are named and have no number.
Yeah.
Apart from number 5.
Are they upper class houses? I have to ask because it's so rude to have a number, isn't it? It's so
they are a bit.
Yeah, I thought they might be.
They are a bit posh, I'm afraid, around here. But
my ambition in life is to be that rich. I can have a big house and give it a name, and my name will be Done Me Head In.
Jolly good. Well, I think my ambition.
There's a road near us that they did number, and then before you get to number 1, they've built another house, and on the gate is actually written minus MINUSONE.
-1, yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Well, very good.
So else 0 as well.
They're building a new platform at Leeds Railway Station, and it's next to platform 1 on the opposite side to where platform 2 is, and I believe it is going to be platform 0.
Yes, there's a platform 0 at King's Cross in a similar way. Yeah.
We're getting into Harry Potter territory now.
I think so, yeah.
Very, very nearly, yeah.
When I lived in Leeds many, many, many moons ago, my house actually had 2 different addresses.
Oh, yes. I know of a house. The house
4 Harlech Road, but it was also 111 Burlington Road. It was the same house, just different sides. It was a through terrace.
As long as you didn't get charged twice the rates bill.
Yeah.
I made sure I didn't.
Yeah.
Yes, you could appear on the census twice over, couldn't you?
Yeah. They could
When house numbering came in, what they used to do, they have a finite road, so they go all down one side to say 53, then 54 would come back up the other way. Then they realised they could never extend it. So then they got in the idea of going odd, even, because then you can go on to infinity.
Well, in our street, they do odd, even, across the road. But unfortunately, on the even side of the road, there's a lot of wiggly bits that go off it. And so by the time you get to the end of our street, which is where we are, we're number 35, but across the road, it's number 78.
Yeah.
People who find number 34 and look around for us get really puzzled because only gone half as far as they need to.
Yeah, same here. Number 2 is opposite number 15.
Yeah, I think these are the directions you have to give people. If you see this number, try looking for this one across the street.
This one
quickie
here,
question.
yes, yeah.
It's your new postie, first day on the road.
Yeah. Quick question. In England, what's the highest house number? I know in America they go into the thousands, don't they?
Oh, goodness
No,
knows.
in America, there are not thousands of houses. It's a strange system. The first digits are the block number, and the next pair of digits are the house number.
Right.
So you might have a house number 3047 or something, but it's block 30, number 47.
Yeah, I would imagine in Britain it's about 350 is the highest I've seen.
Well,
I think
No. My niece lives in 770 something. Just a minute.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's Garrett Lane.
I thought I was listening to the Vicar of Dibley for a moment there. Then.
No. Yes.
No, so yeah, you could probably do a query on the OSM API online to get to find the highest number in Britain, but it would be, I wouldn't know how to do it. It'd be complicated.
But I can tell you the smallest. Sorry.
I was going to say in New Zealand, my brother-in-law lives in a house which is number 500 and something or other on a particular road, but there aren't anywhere near 500 houses on that road. There's probably about 7.
Yeah,
but
planning has gone in for the
what
others.
They do, what is cleverer than that? What they do on long roads in New Zealand is that they number the houses according to the distance along the road. And the idea is that when the ambulance gets there and is wanting to find your house, they know how far along the house, along the street to drive to find your house. So that's a very, very good idea.
Australia does the same in country districts.
Yeah, will make sense. Yeah.
There's a road in Bristol where the numbers go up to 700 and something.
Right, that must be round about the highest then.
But I've got a feeling there's a gap in the numbers.
Right.
It jumps from like, I don't know, 300 to 500 or something like that.
I blame Hitler.
Cheat.
The road.
Yeah. I still think
not a lane. 814.
Oh, right.
That is mine. It is Garrett Lane in London, Tooting, but don't take notice. You think the lane is short, but Garrett Lane in London is a very long road.
Right.
I know that one, yes.
Yeah, because I think the shortest street is where I grew up in Bacup. It has one house on it. Actual shortest street.
Is
in
it
the
number
UK.
1?
Number 1, yeah.
I'd like to hope so.
In Dorking in Surrey, there is a street where the houses are lettered, and the letters are picked out by different coloured bricks in the front wall, and the letters are about 6 foot high.
Yeah, here we are. Here's 649 Muller Road.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
Yeah. If you go further along to the right, across right up here somewhere, it'll be, I think it's 700 and something.
782.
Yeah.
There we go.
And go back to where you were.
Yeah. $613, and then I see there's a park.
Yeah, so if you go to the other side of the park,
and then we're now down at number 281.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a gap there.
There is a bit of a gap. They've obviously allowed for extremely high density housing to cover the whole of this park. Yeah, it would be interesting to know what the highest number is on a street which actually has hardly any gaps.
Yeah.
That would be the non-cheating Guinness Book of Records.
Yeah, my house in Bath had a long garden and there were 4 gates in it. So we were 205. The next one up the end of the garden was 211. Somebody had planned to build these houses, but they never got built.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also in Bath, we had gaps where places were bombed out. And when they rebuilt, all sorts of strange things happened to the numbering.
A to Z, I would imagine. Yeah, number 21, A to Z. Yeah. That's good fun.
Everything you ever wanted to know about house numbering, but were afraid to ask.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
The sales pitch should be just buy Risk OSM and find out. Yeah.
Anorak supplied.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
Yeah, I think there is actually a special name for train spotters, and people at the Pylon Society of Great Britain and the Roundabout Society of Great Britain, I call them anorexics.
Oh, yeah.
You need to add the Electricity Pylon Society to that.
Oh,
Yes.
definitely, yeah. I know they exist, and there are some intriguing ones, even not on the test site where you showed. I think Durham's got some of the more weirdo shaped ones. If you ever want a day trip.
I better keep a little bit more of a lookout then.
Sad but true, yeah. Right, well, thank you very much. It's been really interesting. I don't know if Rick's got a sign-off thing or whether there's still questions from anyone else.
No, I'm still here. This was a bonus meeting in that we weren't actually supposed to be meeting in January, but we are. The next one's an AGM, so that's at members only. So it'll be just me and two others. Yes. Thanks very much, Matthew.
Still a question about RISC-OSM, if I can get mine in. It's to Matthew. I talked to you about it at the last sort of show we were at physically. Must be years ago, it seems now. But I said my problem is that I'd like to use the higher, the 1 million times.
Yeah. Do you mean?
Right. What's it called? That's it. Yeah.
The scale.
If you go to 1 million, you might as well go to bed and wake up next morning.
Yeah, I think so.
The thing is, what I'm using it for is I'm buying stuff online, and it says like a kitten, for example. And it gives me a postcode, and I want to use RISC-OSM just with me in the middle, and a scale of a million. Where is this postcode? And you can't use it for that because there's too much data. We discussed possibly having a stripped down data set. You remember this discussion?
Yeah. It's one of these things which is going to be a huge amount of work. What I think might be more manageable would be, I mean, you see, the problem is if you're doing a very small scale map, you've got masses of data within that area to render, but of course you're not interested in most of it because there's no way you want the houses and the pylons and the lifting barriers at car parks, which are tend to be in there. You don't want any of them at that scale. So we have to process the data to kind of layer it so that you only load in the needful information. And the 1 in a million kind of scale, we didn't manage to do that right because it's loading way more. Well, actually we did, but the big problem is it is at the moment, as we're sitting here, loading the data, and it will only be loading stuff that it might be going to render. But the big problem is it's going to be rendering motorways, for example, but those motorways might have nodes to say where they turn slightly every 10, 20 meters. And so there's thousands of them per mile, potentially. And it just means there's masses of data. So in order to do it quickly as a vector map, what we would really need to do is process the data so that a lot of the points are thrown away at the small scales, so you don't even have to load them in. But it's not as easy as that, because that motorway may have been chopped up into several different chunks. Well, perhaps motorways less so, but a big main road will be chopped up into different chunks because it changes its name. So in OpenStreetMap, when a street changes its name, it's chopped up into a different way, as it's called. And so there's a limit to how much we can throw out because we would then have to start thinking about, well, this is the same street as that street, really. And at this scale, we don't want to do one that's 1 millimeter long and another that's 2 millimeters long. We just want to skip over that altogether. So that would require a lot of processing. So as you can see, if you can rabbit on and talk long enough, you can actually start getting a map before people are totally bored. But now, I suppose what I'm wanting to know is, what is your use case for wanting to know where this postcode is relative to you? Are you wanting to know how far away this place is? Or are you genuinely wanting a map saying, I'm getting this product from here all the way over there, so you can see both places at once?
Well, what I was thinking was a utility program that just takes in your data and spits out a very small file with some sort of filtering. So all I'm interested in is in the towns, really. I don't even want the roads, maybe. So I just want to see an empty map of England with my town and the towns in it. Something like that.
Okay, that might be more doable. Right, sorry, Hillary's distracting me with big house numbers. She's found one that's in the 600s in Dundee. But anyway, that might be more doable.
So I really want just the roads and the town names, nothing else at all.
Yeah.
I'll probably use my sat nav in the car to actually find it on the day for the detail. But sitting at my computer, I want to see, and I've got some postcodes. I want to see where they are and how I might get there. So
yeah.
This is mountains, I don't want rivers, just towns.
Yeah. We probably ought to have put a bit of work into this to see if we can come up with a reduced set of data that would actually render reasonably well. I am worried about the roads, because each of these roads here will have lots of points on it, and it does take a long time for it to do it. I mean, RISC-OSM does simplify things. It will be, the draw file will not have thousands of points along here. It does throw them away at the point of rendering, but it's still a bit of processing. Yeah, we ought to have a go at this, really. What we need to do is
throw away the small roads altogether and keep the main roads with their points in, and maybe that's a reduction in data. I don't want fields or cows or pylons or...
Yeah, well, you see, the thing is, what it's already doing, I mean, it's produced this map, and if we look at the information, you'll see it took 2.5 minutes to load it and a minute to render it. Now, actually, it's not loading anything very much that it isn't rendering here. The things that you're probably not interested in, you're probably not interested in the category of the type of land, so farmland or forests or whatever. For some purposes, a map at this scale, it's really interesting to be able to see the forests and stuff, but I think we're going to have to accept it's not going to work, because the trouble is there's so many different categories of land use that people don't want colouring. I mean, the farmland, for example, there's way more farmland than that. It's just that most of it hasn't been tagged. So that's pretty useless. So we probably need to throw out all of the land use information and retain just the roads and the railways and the towns, the town names. But even with the towns, it's tricky, because you don't want to, how do you decide which towns to render and which ones not to? There'll be loads of towns here which aren't being shown because their names didn't fit on the map, because RISC-OSM avoids putting labels that write over each other, but they'll all have been loaded in. And some of them will have had to have boundaries loaded in order to be able to place them at all. So we have to have some of the bigger places won't have a point for where the name goes. They will just have a boundary, and you have to load that in. So there is quite a lot of complication. And one of the difficulties, and probably the reasons we haven't got round to trying this for some time, is that because the processing of the data takes, a day and a half to work through the British Isles, testing it is going to be a long job, and that's probably put us off. But I accept we're not very good at the small scales. We ought to have a go at throwing out more data and see if we can get something usable. If we can't get anything usable, there are a few other ideas. We could, for example, try and get ready-made bitmap tiles to download from the internet, because OpenStreetMap does have those available. And MapView by Thomas Milius, which you can get for RISC-OSM, does display those. They have to be converted from PNGs, and I haven't got any PNG library built using C at the moment, but other people have done it, so it must be possible. So that would be one option. Another option that's coming along, and it's quite interesting, the future of OpenStreetMap, there is now a move to generating vector tiles, as they call them. So map rendering on modern web browsers, they are starting now to render vector maps on web browsers. And so there are some servers where you can get vector tiles, and they will have already done the throwing out and the simplification. And we would then just need to download those vector tiles and render them straight to the screen. However, they're stored in a completely different format from what we've been doing before. So that would be quite a lot of investigation as well. Yeah, sorry, that's a long way of saying, yes, we ought to do it, but it's quite complicated and there's a lot of different options to explore.
If you need any assistance with that, I've got lots of spare machines that have got idle time. They can be running day and night rendering stuff for you. I mean,
well, that's a kind offer. It's mainly the problem is the testing and development sequence, really, because you try something, you run the data through it for a couple of days, and then you think, oh, drat, I've gone and made a mistake there. It's a load of useless rubbish now. So you have to change the configuration again, run it through again. It just means that when we embark on this project, it's going to take several weeks of slightly tedious, mainly the computer running away in the background, and be time consuming in that kind of way.
Okay, well, thanks anyway. I'll watch this space.
Yeah, we actually, you know what? It is possible. Just thought of this. We do supply OSM Convert, which converts the data. You could, in fact, yourself tweak the configuration of OSM Convert to throw out the stuff that you're not interested in and convert it yourself. So if you want to get involved in that way, we could explain a little bit about how that works, and you could try converting the data for yourself and see whether it'll work better.
Yes, I'm quite keen to do that.
Okay, well, I might drop you an email then to explain what it's all doing.
I'll have some. I've got shortly having enough. I've got some fast machines. I'm shortly buying one of the new M1 Apples. And I've got no use for it apart from Zoom, so I can be running away day and night doing stuff like that. Probably can't actually, can it? No, it doesn't run RISC-OSS.
Yeah, slight problem indeed.
Anyway, I've got machines. Yes, if you would do that, Matthew, I'm happy to help.
Yeah, okay. Well, we can certainly tell you easily how to throw out a lot of things. That's quite easy to do. And then you could run it through and see whether it turns up with something.
Okay. Have you got my email? Have you?
I expect so.
Some database somewhere.
We better just, we'll just, where's that mouse gone? I'm sure we must have somewhere. Let me just check. Impact.
It's a good time to do it. I've got some time on my hands at the moment.
Yeah. Are you still at ArgaNet?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Right. We've got your address.
Right. Any more questions? Doesn't seem like it. Well, thanks.
On another track, I've just had you've got a disk imaging thing on your site, haven't you?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
One of the things I wanted to do was take all the stuff off my floppies and put it somewhere much safer. I could just stick them in a zip file somewhere, but would taking a disk image have any advantages?
It's something that's good from a software preservation point of view. If you have anything weird going on the disk, but I wouldn't like to say that the disk image software that we've written would be desperately useful for you, because it was written mainly to take images of Amstrad floppy disks in order to make them usable in an Amstrad emulator. Because before we got into RISC-OS machines, I had an Amstrad CPC, and we did some programming for that. So the disk image software is mainly geared to running stuff from other types of machine under emulation. And for that, it's and the point is, you see, you need a disk image for that, because your emulator pretends to have a floppy drive, and it uses the file, you know, so it has to have the representation of the tracks and sectors, because at the level of the operating system in the emulator, it is accessing tracks and sectors. So just having the files doesn't work. So if you can get the files off your floppies and you know that's all there is, and then that's fine. That's probably all you need. Where people like to use disk imaging software particularly is if there is copy protected disks with weird things going on, where the copy protection will not work unless you actually read the disk at the sector level and all of the metadata that's associated with the sectors. Disk image, Pling disk image that we wrote doesn't really do it to that level of detail, because so it's not adequate as a disk imaging tool, apart from for very straightforward disks. But for very straightforward disks that you have, you can probably just take all the files off.
Right. Yeah. Thanks.
That's okay. I did joke to Hilary that perhaps one of the things I ought to demonstrate to everyone is ZMac, which is the Z80 assembler cross-compiling tool, which I ported about 15, 20 years ago. But I reckoned there might be very little interest in that. But so it's quite nice to hear disk image being inquired about.
Right. Well, thanks very much, Matthew. You were worried you weren't going to be able to talk long enough.
Oh, yeah. I shouldn't have
there
done
won't
that.
be enough questions. Well, needn't have worried.
No.
Not at all, no.
Well, I'm very glad I don't have to get the train back after this one.
Yeah, or drive. Yeah. No, it's been very good. Excellent. Thanks very much.
No, very nice to come along. I see we're now down to one screen of participants, so it must be...
Yeah, they're all sloping off.
Yeah, I don't know.
At least they don't slam the door behind them.
No stamina, these youngsters.
Yeah. Well, I'll not be long from the bed. I'm absolutely shattered.
Yeah.
There we are. Doing
energetic
things.
I'll say good night.
Good to see you all. I ought to get rid of this this stupid background and just reveal that that we do have another participant in the room.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Hello.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it might.
It's a bit small because you're still screen sharing, but yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry.
We can see who it is. Yes, there you go.
There we go.
There you go. Hello. we wondered who was prompting. Right. Well, good night, all. Thanks for not coming, so to speak.
So to speak, yes.
Right. So this machine will now spend the next 2.5 hours converting the video. Anyway, good night, all.
Good night.
All right.
Cheerio.
Save the recording, Rick.
Thank you, Matthew. Very informative. Great.
Did you record it as well, Ruth?
I did, yeah.
Oh, good lass. Anyway, hopefully we won't need the duplicate. Night all.
Night all.